I'm so, I am so glad you're all here, and I'm excited for our new office hour series. We're going to have 8 series once a month for executive directors and emerging leaders. And this is targeted to the emerging leaders and the newer executive directors. But if you were like me, I felt new as an executive director for, at least 5 years, maybe more. So we don't have a time limit on that. You're all welcome here, and I'm so excited. Today's topic is going to be mentorship to support leadership and organizational success. Dr. Gargan and I are going to really talk about what mentorship meant to us and what being a mentee sometimes meant to us, and how we used both of those ideas to grow and how we can help you. We have a really packed 1 hour, so I'm not going to let us stay any longer than this. And I'm going to turn it over to Dana.
Thank you so much, Gail. Thank you. Hi, my name is Dana Asby. I'm a project specialist at the National Family Support Technical Assistance Center, and I'm going to be your moderator today. As a disclaimer, we do receive funding from SAMHSA. We are so grateful for that funding, but anything that is said today during this presentation are the views of the presenters and not necessarily SAMHSA. Just a little housekeeping information for you. If you could please mute your microphones during the presentation, we'll allow you to unmute when we are having our discussion towards the end of our time together today. As you were alerted by Zoom, this is being recorded, and we'll put that up on the NFSTAC website within 14 days of the close of our presentation. If you have questions at any time during the webinar, please put them in the chat for the discussion later. If it's something really pressing, you can use that raise your hand feature during the discussion to have your microphone unmuted. We will be putting out a survey right at the end of our session today. When you close the Zoom meeting, it will pop up. And if you complete that survey, you'll get a participation certificate that will also be sent to you via a follow-up email. If you have any questions after the session, please email me at dasby@ffcmh.org. The NFSTAC Center uses family-centered language that's affirming and respectful in all activities. So we ask that you also use healing-centered and trauma-responsive, strengths-based language, avoiding blame for parents and caregivers during today's discussion. And now I'd love to tell you a little bit more about our office hours series. As Gail mentioned, this is an 8-part training session. We have 3 goals for you. The first is to support executive directors and emerging leaders in family-run organizations using peer support. So a lot of what we'll be doing together is sharing our own experiences and helping each other find solutions to our challenges. We also hope that by bringing in a variety of subject matter experts, that we can increase your knowledge of leadership, management, and mentorship skills. Our third goal for you during this series is to provide a roadmap towards organizational well-being, which will not only enhance staff satisfaction, but also increase family engagement and organizational sustainability. Now, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you. Could you please let us know how you would describe your leadership experience? Do you feel like you're an established leader with years of experience, a relatively new leader, an emerging leader looking for opportunities? Maybe you're a mentee looking to develop leadership abilities. And if you have some other way of describing yourself, if you wouldn't mind putting that in the chat. We have about 20 more seconds to answer that poll question. Got quite a variety here. All right, I'm going to share these results with you. So it looks like we have a little less than a third feel like they're established leaders. A little less than that feel like they are new leaders. Then we have 20% feeling as if they're emerging leaders, and 1 person here feeling like they are a mentee. Michelle says that she is a kinship navigator. Oh, I love that phrase. If you're one of the other people who have a different way of identifying your leadership experience, please do share that in the chat with us, such as Laura, who's in a new role with increased leadership responsibility. That's another great way to identify as a leader. So let me tell you a little bit about how each of these hours is going to work. First, we'll start out by giving you some new skills, perhaps some strategies and some tools from the various subject matter experts. Today, it's Dr. Gargan and Gail. Then we'll also give you some tips for mentorship between established and emerging leaders that you can enact during the in-between time between our monthly sessions. We'll also have a peer discussion each month about our experiences on that month's topic, what's working, and the challenges that we've experienced. Finally, we want to give you an action plan each month to help you implement small steps that all together are going to enhance your organizational well-being by the end of this training series. Thanks, Rainey, for sharing about your leadership experience as an emerging leader, having some experience in the past and now getting back in the flow after taking some time off. That's great. So I'd love to start our time today thinking about what mentorship is. This quote from Denzel Washington is something to keep in mind as we go throughout our time today and the whole training series. He says, "Show me a successful individual, and I'll show you someone who had real positive influence in his or her life. I don't care what you do for a living. If you do it well, I'm sure there is someone cheering you on or showing you the way, a mentor." So hopefully you can keep that in mind as we're talking about what it means to be a mentor. So now I would love to introduce the Executive Director of the National Federation of Families, Dr. Lynda Gargan. She leads the country's largest national advocacy organization focused solely on supporting the families of children and young adults experiencing mental health and or substance use challenges. Lynda's going to tell us about her experience as a mentor and mentee in family-run organizations.
Thank you, Dana. Oh, and thank you for switching to the screen where I can see everybody. I love to be able to see everybody. Hello, everyone. Some of you I've talked to as recently as the last week or so. Some of you I don't know, and I would love to get to know you. It's great to have you with us today. Now, I'm going to shamelessly promote our conference that's coming up in 3 weeks. We'll be in Oklahoma City. Would absolutely love to have every one of you with us. If you cannot make it to Oklahoma, we also are presenting the conference virtually. So please try to join us because we'll be talking about this and many other things at the conference and would love to have you there. So my experience being mentored or as a mentor. I tell people all the time, I think I'm one of the luckiest people in the business because very early in my career, I was introduced to some of the most brilliant minds in our field. And they were the people who helped me really solidify my values and to be able to talk about my values and to put those into action. So I feel like I just was amazingly lucky. I stumbled into it. I stumbled into a job that just happened to have these wonderful people as a part of it. They helped me understand the whole idea of what person-centered is, because it was a term I'd never heard before. They helped me understand really meeting people where they are and working with them from that point and asking them what they wanted to do with their lives, not trying to tell them what they wanted to do. And as you guys know, I've been around for a while, so this was a long time ago. And this is when people were not really talking much about this. It was all families are to blame and the clinician is the expert. You guys, I know many of you lived through those same times. But I just had this unbelievable experience of having people mentor me around my values and the value of other people. So that was my first really wonderful mentoring experience. Several years later, I was lucky enough to have another mentor. And he was completely different. He mentored me on what it's like to be a good leader and what it's like to be a good manager And he taught me all about figuring out whether things are important or critical, all the things that we learn as we are becoming good leaders. And I mean, I would literally just sit and talk to him for hours because he had this wealth of experience, again, that I didn't have. So I tried in both of those experiences to make myself as vulnerable as possible, to make myself as open as possible, and to continue to ask questions. Without those two different sets of mentors, you know, who knows where I would be. But I can say that when I look back on those experiences, they are some of my happiest memories. And they are the times that really catapulted me in my professional growth and my personal growth. So, you know, I'm a big advocate of mentoring. I think it's really good. I love it when I'm able to mentor others. And I try my best to remember and to reflect on what those people did for me and try to pay that forward. And I think, Dana, that's probably my little spiel on mentoring.
Thank you so much, Lynda. I love what you said about vulnerability and being open. That's such a key component to being a mentee and a mentor.
Absolutely.
So now we're going to hear from Gail Cormier. She is the project director of the National Family Support Technical Assistance Center. She brings over 25 years of experience providing national and statewide technical assistance and expertise. Gail previously served as the executive director for North Carolina Families United, Inc., the North Carolina state affiliate of the National Federation of Families. Gail, take it away.
And thank you, Dana. And I see a lot of my former staff and board members here. So hi, everybody. I hope North Carolina Family, I'm so happy North Carolina Families United is here and represented. Like Lynda, I'm going to shamelessly promote pre-conference at the conference. And you can join either virtually or if you're going to be in Oklahoma, come on down. We're going to be there on November 2nd. And it's going to be a deep conversation about sustainability. So it's right up your alley. This is meant for leaders and emerging leaders as well. So register. It's all free. You can watch it virtually, or if you're going to be in Oklahoma City, come join us. But anyways, what Lynda talked about was exactly my experiences. I've been very fortunate too to have some really good leaders in my life. Lynda being one of them, actually. And even now, Lynda, I think of as a mentor to me. I will call her when I need to and I go, okay, Lynda, I know I've been doing this for 25 years, and that's when she says, okay, Gail, deep breath. And I go, gee. So my point is everyone needs a mentor at all times. You can be old like me, and be in this business for well more than 25 years and need a mentor, or you can be new. I think we're always learning, and that's exciting. So that's why I'm excited we're here today. You know what I've also realized? We have formal mentors and informal mentors. And this series is going to be a little bit more of that in between of a formal and informal, and I'll explain why. When I first became Well, I'm going to go way back to when we formed my nonprofit that happened in New Hampshire. It was a provider nonprofit for youth mental health. And we did that because our grant was ending. So when the grant ended, the university that I was associated with was rolling it over to become a nonprofit. Now, here I am leading and being the director of this youth peer support program. And they go, well, we're going to start a nonprofit. And guess what, Gail? You have to be the executive director. And I looked at them and I said, the executive director? I'm a youth peer support person. I know how to supervise. I can be a director, but that's my head was exploding. By a show of hands, how many people got to be the executive director somewhat like that? Anyone plan? Yeah, I see some. So with great trepidation and real anxiety, luckily I had the university to actually mentor me. They put me in the role of executive director. What the heck was I going to do now? It's all I could think of. I know how to supervise. I said it again, but there's so much more to being the leader. There's billing, there's finance, there's talking to SAMHSA, there's understanding relationships, there's working with the board. It's a cadre of situations that we have to work with. And that's where we as new people sometimes, and as older people, need that mentorship. I was very fortunate that the university had enough money that they actually bought me and contracted with me a mentor. My first mentor, he was the president of the New England Blue Cross. And he had just retired and he was going into business training and mentorship. Now, I ran a provider organization, which is a little different than a family run, but it's a nonprofit and has a lot of overlapping values and systems. So he would come once a month and we would have lots and lots of deep conversations. I asked him everything. What I needed to do was drain his brain and his energy and his knowledge. And oh, I valued the 2 years that I had him as my formal mentor. But even during that time, I had informal mentors. I had the university professors that worked with me. I had friends. I had my board members, and they would help me walk through things that I needed to know. All those skills gave me that experience and that confidence that when I moved to North Carolina, I was able to successfully obtain the role of executive director for North Carolina Families United. And even when I became the executive director there, I didn't so much need formal mentorship, but I still needed that informal mentorship. And it was understanding who I could talk to, who are the right players, who are the movers and shakers that we needed to connect with and make relationships with. You need someone that helps you kind of guide you. Oh, don't talk to her yet. Talk to this one first, and they'll bring you in and make a formal introduction. We all know relationships are key for every job, I think, and having a mentor that helps you walk and navigate that field is wonderful. So my informal mentors running a family run were invaluable. I also know that I know there's one thing that's different. We're here, and I'm assuming, but I shouldn't ever assume, is that we're all running family-run organizations and not just nonprofits. And there is the difference. Yes, there's a lot of overlap for nonprofits and family runs, but we have a different culture. We have a different little flavor, a different zip. And I think we have to talk about that too in the next 8 weeks or 8 times we have this office hours. What's the difference? What makes a family run versus a nonprofit? How do we combine those? What is the different spice that makes the family run unique? And there is a little bit of a different culture, isn't there? So we're going to talk about all of that and the idea that we're all grateful, that we're always learning. And my last piece of advice is know the people that are in this room. There are some brilliant people here. I see Mary and Catherine, and I see Laura and people from Idaho and Maji. These are the people you should rely on a lot of times. Make your friends, make those relationships, because really, when I started talking to other EDs who are family-run EDs, who are all over the country, that's where I learned those special little skills. They had things that they could tell me that no that a nonprofit expert couldn't tell me. It was my peers. And remember, peer support is important. So it was my peers, my executive director peers from all over the country that really helped me mentor. They mentored me and I mentored them, and we all learned. And that is when I became a strong executive director. I think that's all I've got right now. Dana?
Great. Thank you so much, Gail. A lot of what Lynda was said was echoed and some new points as well. So we're going to move into a brief facilitated discussion between Lynda and Gail. I have 3 questions for them, and then we'll open the floor up to everybody. Remember, you can put any questions you have for Gail and Lynda into the chat, and let's get started. So for Gail and Lynda, I'm going to ask the first question. What was the most valuable part of some of those earlier mentorships when you were still an emerging leader?
For me, and I think it was because my mentorship happened when it did, it really, the very most valuable part was my personal growth in terms of my values. That was with my first mentorship. That just, me being able to have my values gently questioned and to have my assumptions significantly questioned was tremendous. And then I would say, you know, for my second time where I thought I was so wonderfully mentored, it was the skills. It was absolutely skill-based mentoring, and you need both.
I can definitely say values was a big piece of the first kind of mentorship I had. And since we're talking about families, I will say, when I first came in, I came in as a provider, and I did not get the idea of the value of family until I became a parent and realized parents knew best. But people who helped me actually get to that point too were people in New Hampshire, like the Granite State Federation of Families. They would challenge me on a question. I'd go, yes. And then I would realize, and I remember this from one of my first mentors, Dr. Joanne Malloy from New Hampshire. She said, Gail, you know, when you look at your child and you know they have a sore throat, right? And I said, yeah, I say that all the time. She goes, well, that's how parents are. We know what's going on. And I thought, wow, you're absolutely right. So being challenged on our preconceived notions and our values was very, very important. But the other piece too was the skills. When I had that formal mentor from who retired from Blue Cross, he helped me with a lot of things, with bookkeeping, with understanding financing, with understanding that role of an executive director from the business sense. That's something that, as someone who went to school for psychology, I didn't get, or I didn't take those kind of courses. Now, I have to say too, now that I've been in that field, I will strongly suggest, and I tell my children this, everyone has to take a business course while they're going through college or high school. I think that is the most important thing, because you never know where life leads you.
Thank you. That is such great advice. So both of you have talked a lot about being a mentor, being a mentee. But now I'd like to ask about your experience as a mentor and what your mentees have actually taught you.
Wow. I've been in a lot of different positions where I've had younger or even, you know, staff my age who were just emerging leaders to the max. And it's so amazing to get to mentor someone, honestly, who has a different perspective of the world than you do. Because being able to sit and talk about that and to talk about your perspective versus my perspective and how we're going to bring those together. That's magic. And then watching that team develop as someone you're mentoring gains confidence, and you see them really just moving to the next level. It is such a rewarding thing. Honestly, it gives me chills just to think about some of the people I've mentored, because you just watch them blossom. And on the days when they stumble, you're there to get them. You're there, you've got their back, you help them think about it and problem solve and move on to the next day. So I think those are just wonderful experiences.
You know what I liked? When Lynda started talking about being a mentor to a mentee, her eyes lit up. And that excitement, that smile, look at that face, it's adorable. And that's the face and the feeling I get too. I really do. Nothing is better in my vision to see others that I have worked with grow and become and bloom in their roles. I think I always make myself available, and people who know me, I say, call me, ask me, I'll do it for you. I will help you. Now, I don't mean I'll do the job for you, but I'll be there to walk side by side and help you. I'll be there to give you a hug if you need it. Being a mentor and watching someone blossom is the most important thing. I think that makes this job so exciting. It makes all the jobs I've ever had really exciting, just to see people grow and blossom.
Excellent. One more question for you both. Why is mentorship crucial for organizational sustainability?
That's sort of like saying, why is it important to build a good foundation under a house? Because that's what you're doing, really. You are building the foundation that's going to make it solid, that's going to make it, fireproof, stormproof, everything. And you are uplifting a team. And then there's always, guys, always, we need to begin with the end in mind. And I am always looking at my staff and thinking, these are the leaders when I'm not here anymore. These are the people who will, we're building this organization on the shoulders of my staff. Mm-hmm. And when I'm gone, they're going to keep that going. So for me, it's just critical that building that infrastructure.
I always think of the picture. I think we've seen it before, where someone's climbing and they're reaching down and bringing the second person up, and they're reaching down and bringing the third person up. I think that's how we, just as people who have lived experience, realize that that's how we have to bring people up. Sustainability. We need to make our staff or your staff feel like they can carry on without you. We need to be able to lift people up and be that mentor and that support, whether you're in person or virtually. And I see Gina said something interesting. A mentor of mine used to say, the best exercise for the human heart is lifting someone else up. I totally agree.
Thank you both so much for sharing your wisdom. I know that Lynda needs to hop off, but hopefully you can answer one more question that came in through the chat before you do. It's specific to Mary is asking how you find a mentor that's able to help with standard operating processes versus that day-to-day heartstring work in family organizations. And a connected question from her is, are there any documents that we as an organization have for sustainability business planning?
So I'll go first because I do have to jump off of here. I hate that, but I do. Mary, here's what I'd say to you. Look around at everybody that's on this call right now. There are mentors on this call, and that includes Gail and I, but there are mentors on this call who can be your closest allies. We have a tremendous number of different documents and PowerPoints and all kinds of things. A lot will be shared during this session, but we also have those if there are things that you need. But honestly, these are your peers on this call right now. Please, please reach out to them.
Yeah, I agree. And Mary, first of all, everybody, but Mary, since you asked that question, NFSTAC, the Technical Assistance Center, is always available to give some one-on-one technical assistance. So you can always go on our webpage and fill out a TA, and we can ask us what you need or tell us what you need, and we'll look for it if we have it, and we'll meet with you, we'll talk you through. There is a big business piece. The second suggestion, last year we had a office hours series, and I believe there were 4 or 5 events. You can go on our website under events and see the recorded subjects, and those had a lot of nuts and bolts tools that you could use too. And then of course, exactly what Lynda said, look at the people sitting here in this room. We need to make those connections, and sometimes an ED that may be doing exactly what you're doing, you can share and say, and this is what I've done all along. If you know me, when I ran my family run, I would call the Mississippi family run and say, hey, do you have this? Or Wisconsin would call me and say, I need this piece. Do you have a document that says that? There's a lot of people who are willing to share with you.
Thank you so, so much, Gail and Lynda, for sharing your wisdom. And we're going to move now from our facilitated discussion into an open discussion with everyone. And we'll be talking about 3 different questions. The first one we'll discuss is, what is your experience as a mentor or a mentee? The second question will be, what has been challenging about mentoring or receiving mentorship? And the third question will be, what has worked well? So I'm going to stop sharing so we can all see each other's faces and remove these spotlights so we're all together. So that first question, anyone can chime in. You can raise your hand or contribute to the chat, but what is your experience as a mentor or a mentee? Talk about a mentorship that went well, that didn't go quite so well, whatever your experience is.
Hi everyone, my name is Margie Grimsley, and I have been around for far too long. But I never thought in terms of mentor. That's a nice word versus old, so I appreciate that. But because I've been around so long, and I started out, I really was pretty young when I started out, and we were in crisis in our family. And I think that Barbara Huff, the National Federation, it was so amazing when the Colorado Federation was starting, and the person that started it was there, but she was part of the National Federation board back in when it was beginning. And so she would Barbara came to Colorado, and there was just, to be able to watch somebody do what she did was something I had never experienced. All I had ever experienced is the pain of being a parent and not having a clue what to do. And just learning that there were other people in the same place that wanted to change things. And so I look back at the beginning people that started the Federation, who really were the trailblazers, and they were also available for a very long time. And I reached out to Barbara, I guess a year or so ago, just to kind of give her thoughts on some things. But I think it just shows that the federation, the national part, what a difference you can make in people's lives, who just don't even know where to begin and where to start. It just, that was so helpful. But then in going to conferences and meeting people, some of those are the best memories of my life, but it's those messages and things I learned way back when are the things that keep me going today.
Margie, if I can jump in, that is, seeing Barbara Huff for the first time is one of the most memorable moments I've ever had. I can remember being at a NAMI conference on a Saturday morning in Manchester, New Hampshire. And it was a state NAMI conference. And they had this woman come in and she was talking about the National Family Organization and the National Family Movement and lived experience. And I sat there awestruck. And the thing that I remember the most was, I want to be her when I grow up. Now, of course, I was almost 40 at the time, but that was my feeling. And that moment is what set me from going away from being a provider person and really wanting to be in the family run business. That is what it is. And Mary, it says, I feel that, whoops, I lost Mary's comment, but I wanted to read it. It says, I feel the support I received was very helpful. However, there is so much to learn with limited time to process. Slowing things down into smaller chunks is helpful to being successful. Having a go-to person is essential to my learning. Mary, absolutely. And I've said this many, many times to anyone here. You can always call us. We're willing to help walk beside you. And you're right, Mary, you're not going to learn it. The 8 sessions are going to be great coming up, and you are going to learn things. But I think it takes, honestly, I was in the field as an ED for 7 years before I said, wow, I'm an ED. I'm going to step aside and let Renee speak.
Hello, my name is Renee Mitchell, and I'm the Executive Director of Breaking the Cycle Drop Corp in New York City. And my mentoring is when I mentor unsheltered homeless people on the streets of New York City. And my motto is breaking the cycle one homeless at a time. When I mentor to these people, I meet them where they're at with no wrong door. And because I'm a person with lived experience, and 17 years ago, me and my daughter was homeless, I know what they're going through, okay, and because I walked in their shoes. So I know how to better, okay, assess and ask for the resources and network to get them the help that they need to move them towards self-sufficiency so they have options and they make better choices for their lives, for themselves, and for their families.
I see Lachelle has a hand up.
Yes, I wanted to share. I've had a lot of mentor experiences, but I just recall when I was working at a managed care organization, I was looking around for a couple years of who could actually help me with this system, who can actually help me maneuver in the community, who are the right people to talk to, who are the key people to talk to. So I thought about asking one of the men in the organization. And he was really a really busy guy. I mean, I pondered on it for weeks. I was so nervous to even say, hey, can you take, some time, like once a month or however often you can, just to kind of teach me the ropes, tell me the history that you know, tell me how I can better serve in the rooms that I'm going to be in. And, to my great surprise, he was willing, and he wanted to meet with me on a weekly basis, which I was shocked. And he said, kind of forecast. He was like, you're going to have weeks where you're going to want to cancel because you don't have anything to say. And he said, but let's learn each other, because as much as you're learning from me, I'm learning from you. And we would meet every week to talk about the upcoming meetings that I had, the reports that I had to write. And when I would go to community meetings, he would tell me the key personalities in the room. And sometimes you don't realize how important that is, but he would say, okay, this is what's going to make him thrive. This is what's going to make her thrive. This is the person you need to connect with. And every week he just gave me so much hands-on
true, no holds bar, tell you the truth, tell me, you know, when I don't need to be quiet, tell me to build relationships with people. And it was like one of the most impressive mentorships that I had.
Knowing those key people is so important. Relationships really build your field. And as an ED, that's how you manage to get new contracts, and you need to sustain yourself. I know that today we're having a broad macro conversation, but as we move on in this series, we'll get down to more nuts and bolts. And Dana, what's coming up?
Yeah, we're going to be talking next month about organizational well-being. We'll be hearing from Dr. Martha Staley about compassion fatigue and burnout and how those are leadership problems, not individual problems. And she'll give us some tips and strategies to really take our organizational wellness to a new level and make sure that we're able to pass those strategies along to the families that we work with as well. And we'll go over the schedule of the whole events in just a second. There's about 6 more minutes of our open discussion. So I don't know if anyone wants to share any challenges they've had in a mentor-mentee relationship or successes to overcome challenges.
Dana, this is Irma. I just wanted to say that when I started as a volunteer with the DC Foster Parent Association, and I was the volunteer fundraiser. But I had graduated from University of Maryland with a degree in business management. Somehow along the way, I wound up being elected as the president of the organization. An organization that had very little money, an organization that had to relinquish their office space. There were so many challenges, but our organization has been around for 52 years. And then along the way, I became a certified peer specialist. And then I got my supervisor's certification in the state of Maryland, because DC doesn't offer it, and I live in Maryland. But I think that being an executive director is something that you learn along the way. You know, it's many paths, but I think the most important thing is to network. When I got the job that I have at Community Connections, I was told by my director that I needed to go out to all the agencies in the city and make myself known. I needed to be at the table when decisions are being made about us. And so I found that that was the most prevalent thing to building my skills. And I'm still getting mentored. There's a lady in DC named Janice Patterson, who has been an advocate for the last 40, 50 years. And I've learned so much from just the association that I have with her. She runs a company called Parent Watch, and she's just a wealth of knowledge. So I think that in the networking, we meet people, and I love Gail and Lynda. So whenever I'm at the Federation, I'm picking especially Lynda. But yeah, I think that that's important.
It
Thank
is.
you.
And if you're at the Federation conference in Oklahoma, pull us aside. Say, hey, Gail, hey, Lynda, I have a question. Ask us. We're going to be here for you.
I'll be there.
Well, Irma, you're always everywhere. I love seeing you.
And likewise.
And really, the conference, I can't tell you how that conference has helped me in many, many ways. I've been going to that conference since I was a provider employee and then CEO. Since, I don't know, 1997, I have made closer relationships there. And, you know, that's where, if you're at the conference and you get a fellow ED, you say, hey, what do you got? Share me, let's exchange emails, and then go from there. Share that paperwork.
And if you're registered for the conference, please download the WOVA app, because you can start networking with people and meeting people before you get to the conference, so that when you get there, you have folks that you can engage with and conversate with and get mentorship from.
He's our best advertisement. Any other thoughts?
I will say, gosh, my picture disappeared. I will say that the many times that I have called Gail, that she has been very helpful, and I'm very appreciative. And I'll talk to you more, just saying.
Well, I just love when you call me, Corey, and anything I can do to make sure your organization thrives is one of my goals.
Much appreciated.
And the National Federation of Families has affiliates that you can look at. Our affiliates are on our website, and I got a question the other day. This just reminded me of when Corey said something. Someone had made a comment that they did not realize that NFSTAC could support affiliates. They thought because you're part of our affiliates, we were looking to support other family-run organizations. And although we definitely want to support all family-run organizations, our affiliates are very important to us. Obviously, if you're an affiliate, you call us. We want to make sure you thrive. Federation of Families, really, the main organization and NFSTAC has a lot, you know, you're so valuable to us, and we want to help any way we can.
There's a great question in the chat.
And Dana, you going to answer that, or?
Sure, yes. Surely that's actually a part of what we were just going to talk about. So I'm going to start sharing my screen again. We have one more question to have you answer via the chat, and that is, what would you like to achieve from completing this training series? And we are definitely here to help you connect with others. So if you don't have any ideas of who you could mentor or be a mentee for, just email us and we'll go over our contact information right at the end, and we are more than happy to connect you with someone. So every month, we're going to leave you with some action steps. And those action steps, we are intentionally making them small and achievable. Each month, it's going to be 1 to 3 little things that you can do to help you feel successful in growing as a leader. So this month, our first action step is to determine your goals for leadership or organizational growth. The second action step is to identify a mentor or a mentee. And again, if you don't have any ideas, reach out to us and we'll help you. And then meet once with your mentor and mentee. Now, normally you'll have a month to do all of these action steps, but we're giving you a few extra this month because we're not meeting in November, since we will be very busy at our annual conference, which we hope to see you at. So you actually have 2. Oh, go ahead.
Dana, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I got a private question that I think I can answer.
Sure.
Today, we're not going to match you up with different mentors, because we think that you may have a mentor you know of that might be able to give you more personalized individual experience, but that doesn't mean we won't match you up with a mentor. If you cannot find a person or you don't have someone in mind that you can ask, we want you to fill out the form that Lachelle just put. Say, I need a mentor, and that'll be one of the things we work with you to get. As I said, we have a lot of affiliates and we know a lot of people.
Yeah, great. So we won't be meeting next month in November. We will be meeting in December 13th to be exact. And when you get a follow-up email, it will include a workbook that's going to help you get through all of these action guides, and you'll get a new version each month with new information. So I'm just going to preview the workbook for you right now, where it has the goals for our series, some expectations that we have for you to achieve success. And if you do attend 4 out of the 8 sessions, you will receive a copy of Joan Gary's Nonprofit Leadership for yourself and for a mentee. So our expectation is that you do identify a mentor or mentee before we meet in December. Try to meet at least once with your mentee between now and then. And then you're going to use this action plan that we're giving you to hold yourself and your organization accountable. Each month, we'll give you some tips on mentorship in general. We've provided a little bit of guidance on what you can discuss on your monthly calls. And then each month, we're going to have a new discussion guide, some ideas for what to talk about. This first session, you can just start to get to know each other if you don't already, share your experience in family peer support, and discuss the logistics of what your mentorship is going to look like. Also, each month, your workbook will include 1 to 3 action steps. So we do ask that you think about setting aside just 5 to 10 minutes sometime pretty soon after each office hour to make a plan for how you're going to implement each action step. And then you take another 5 to 10 minutes before our next office hour to reflect on any changes that you've seen. So for each of the action steps, we'll give you a little bit of space to answer those questions and just a prompt on how to reflect or complete the action steps. We also are going to include a few resources each month. So this month, the resources are focused on what mentorship is, what it looks like, how to have a successful mentorship. The schedule will live there. So here's just a preview of what's coming up. As I mentioned, next in our next office hour in December will be about organizational well-being. January, we'll talk about the importance of coaching and training the family peer workforce. In February, we'll talk about what social justice for family-run organizations looks like and how that contributes to sustainability. In March, we'll talk about cultural mindfulness. In April, we'll discuss trauma-skilled practices. In May, we'll talk about moving from awareness to acceptance through storytelling and how that can help boost the sustainability of our organizations. And then we'll wrap up in June talking about how we can market and message to celebrate success. Our contact information is going to be at the end of the workbook. So again, contact us if you have any questions about mentorship or need help finding a mentee or a mentor. And this workbook will be included in your follow-up email. It's also linked here on this slide if you forget where it is, which the slideshow will be included in our follow-up as well. So don't forget to register for the next office hour in December. You can now register for all of the remaining 7 sessions at the same link where you registered today. We're really excited to have Martha Staley, who's the director of the School Mental Health Initiative of the New England Mental Health Technology Transfer Center, with us to talk about organizational well-being. Again, here's our contact information. So if you can't find the contact information in the workbook, look here or email us from the NFSTAC website and we'll get you answers. And the most important thing as you leave, a survey will pop up that's going to help give us feedback that's really important to us. Not only does it help improve our trainings, it also lets SAMHSA know that this is really important to the workforce. So please either pull out your phone to scan that QR code, hit the link that is going to be in the slideshow, or just close out the Zoom meeting at the end of our time together and take that survey. And I'm going to pass it over to Gail for any last words.
did I miss it, Dana, or did you say what people will get if they attend 4 or more of our office hours?
I briefly mentioned it, but I might have been talking very quickly, so it's fine to reiterate.
So you will get a book that was very valuable to me, and that's Joan Geary's book on nonprofits. And honestly, I forgot the name of it, but Joan is a great leader. She's a nonprofit expert, which is a little different. And I've told you this before. We need nonprofit experts, but you really need a nonprofit expert in the family-run, peer-run area, because no one understands family-run and peer-run like other family-run and peer runs. But Joan is fabulous, and I used her book and value her friendship daily.
So when are you gonna write the book, Gail?
When am I going to write the book? That's my next chapter. Maybe you and I can sit down and we can talk about how-tos.
Awesome.
Any last questions before we go? I don't know about you, but I had a great time today. And please, please fill out the TA form if you need a mentor. We'll figure it out for you. And we're going to see you in December if we don't see you at the conference in November. Bye.
Bye-bye.